Who here knows what a clutch master cylinder is? A distributor? Electrics? Yeah, just electrics. That's pretty vague. I know. There's a lot of parts to a car. A real one spans upwards to around 30,000 parts, which is why a lot of people would just buy one. But video games like to gamify real life. A game about building a car so you can drive around the big map and, play the game, contains just over 100 parts, which in hindsight might seem a lot easier. You take a part and you connect it to another part when a check mark appears. Boom. Lego Duplo. But Lego Duplo comes with instructions. My summer car has nothing. You don't get help. Okay, so this is nothing. This is just a catalog for parts. At that point, you realize, okay, I'm not a mechanic, and a clutch master cylinder might as well be alien calligraphy. 100 individual parts without instructions or a guide means you've been given a task of making piles. Lots of piles. Swiping every single piece over your unbuilt engine again and again and again, where every check mark is another part written down and a reset to the guessing process. Oh, you have to remake the pile now. Everything has to be checked again. I feel like this was supposed to go somewhere in here before it just went through the floor. I just lost one of my items. It just went through the floor. You do this routine for about an hour and a half, and then, at some point, you come to a realization, and it's very sudden. I'm very worried, because this is supposed to be right here, but it doesn't want to go through, and I think You can build this out of order. And these were supposed to go onto the engine block, which wouldn't be the end of the world. You can disassemble the pieces and attempt the engine again, but the moment you take a step forward... What? You take 2 steps back. Turns out, you're not magically slapping these pieces together with invisible glue. Everything can just fall apart. The black rectangle that's been sitting in the corner for hours is actually a collection of spanners for all of the bolts attached to almost every single part. Each spanner fits a different sized bolt. Let's see. You still have to do the shell of the car, the suspension, and the engine you're building is on the floor, not in the place where engines go. Bet you didn't think about that one. Have fun working with the blue contraption. But after that, you're pretty much done. I think. No, there's something else missing here. Where are the wheels? There's no wheels here. There's actually no wheels? What? This is a game that I picked on Steam because I thought I would have liked the idea of building a car. That seemed fun for me. And instead, I'm greeted by a project fraught with hours of trial and error and obsessive, over-the-top detail that most people, after 5 hours, would achieve nothing short of just making a mess. Clearly, I must have just missed a memo. Maybe I should check the Steam page again. Hold on, let me see. What? Why do people play is a valid question. The deliberate design to make a miserable and very unusual game has done nothing but make people love it, which I didn't really understand. Yet. It's only when you stop torturing yourself for a moment and leave the garage that you realize the usual genre labels of simulation and survival don't really capture how this game actually feels. Even the way you're introduced is very strange and blunt. You pick your favorite color, you fill out your name, and you're shown a very shoddy intro of your birth in a car. What is happening? And now you're in your bedroom. Okay. You open the door to find an empty house far from pretty much any sort of meaningful population and supplied with very little to keep you alive. It's very quiet and isolating, not much to look at, and not much to do. That's it. If that felt quick and empty, that's because it is. But most games try to introduce themselves. They set a tone and a new world for you to get into, even if it's without knowledge of a story. My Summer Car follows the same logic, just one built on indifference, with a morsel of bland direction. Don't be lazy, fix the car, Uncle's truck can be loaned, don't drink. Holy sh! For a game this unconventional, I'm not surprised that one of the ways you're able to die is by having your bladder literally explode. Oh. Stress, hunger, and thirst are all familiar, but dirtiness is the only one that seems intentionally created to make you angry. Once that bar hits a certain threshold, you'll earn yourself a sound effect that's genuinely worse than death. This never stops, by the way. I showered and it's still going. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle that cannot be solved, wondering if anything you're doing at this point is even remotely correct, stepping outside to maintain your sanity and health, only to have the same directionless confusion and inconvenience reflected outside of the garage. Why is the only save option going to the toilet? What is this weird obsession with piss? Why do I have so little food, and where do I get more? Who is my uncle, and where is his van? And where are my f***ing wheels? If you haven't decided to abandon this game out of frustration, the tractor might be one of the first vehicles you come across when you venture out, or the moped resting next to the garage. They're about as complicated as you would have guessed at this point. Oh my. Pressing random buttons and pulling random levers that you aren't familiar with. But it's one of the very few things that are doable in less than about 10 minutes. And although it's a relatively small feat compared to Satsuma, it's the very first time this game has turned that frown upside down. I need to change that. That's bad. Call me a pessimist, but feeling a sense of accomplishment in this game is very few and far in between. Which is why making this thing blast off at 4 miles an hour after doing whatever the hell I was doing back there made me feel like I was making progress. Slow progress. Very slow progress. Ooh, windshield wipers. And you may be wondering where that progress actually leads to. And that's a good question. This map isn't hard to read and get your bearings straight, but I'm an idiot and would rather take the scenic route. Trash? Which is less eye candy than it is shock as to how visually barren this world is. Everywhere you look, there's nothing but floating grass, giant unified low poly blocks with woodlog textures on it, giant unified low poly blocks, but instead of woodlogs, it's wheat, tree PNGs that you can walk through, tree PNGs that you can't walk through. What? Finding a structure might be the highlight of your trip until you realize that most of the ones you find are there for decoration. This is the biggest structure in the entire map, a building with silos, numerous garages and office buildings. At this point, it would be fair to assume that there'd be something here after numerous empty shacks. You spend about 5 minutes looking around, only to find that it's just as empty and inaccessible as everything else, and the area behind it feels like a spot that they forgot to block off with their tree barriers. There's just nothing here. This is fun. This game looks and feels like it would play, as if the entire world is built out of distant models. The ones that use less geometry and low quality textures when you see areas that are far away, it's used in a lot of games to improve performance, and it's meant to be swapped to the real models when you're up close. Except here, that swap never happens. Everything is liminal, blocky, untexturized, and seems unfinished, to the point where it can feel almost creepy. The characters that live in this world are no exception to this rule. They feel unsurprisingly static and off, but in a kind of amusing way. A lot of them seem to either ignore you or just become hyper-aggressive if you get in their way of their fixed routine of infinitely driving around the map. No. Are you kidding me? Sir? And some are made to serve a certain purpose. Timo is a shop and bar owner located all in one building. The bar is consistently serving 2 men, having what I can only assume a pleasant conversation. It's a small space, but it's one that's crucial for your supplies. You can just glide over the counter, walk over to the shop that's supposed to be closed and snoop around while he makes the food you ordered. You can piss on Timo and his customers without any real repercussions besides the funny remarks he makes at you. Nobody seems to do anything. And nobody really cares. There are times where the interactions go beyond verbal, though. The dance pavilion is open on Saturdays for a lot of the residents, and by that I just mean like 6 people. And one guy who's had a little too much to drink is standing outside waiting for you to start something. What is he? Oh, whoa. He can block? No! Come on. Please. It's not the most epic fight in the world, but it feels borderline impossible when you consider that he face tanks all the punches you throw at him. Oh, I got him though. Oh my god, his neck almost snapped. But it's a pretty honorable and fair fight nonetheless. And Is that a knife? Ugh. Oh my god. It seems alcohol consumption and loud music is a common trend in this world. But this is rural Finland. And this was made by Topless Gun and help from his wife, who are also Finnish. Which it kind of explains why the game is the way that it is. 1 to 2 people can't really make a game with good graphics and also in-depth mechanical accuracy. It's just not feasible in a lifespan, but limitations often create something unique. If this game was painted with ultra-realism or something a little more stylish and colorful, it strips away a lot of its monotony and sense of boredom. Oh man, I love taking my slow tractor down this dirt road and looking at the trees. They're so nice and cool. So not only does a solo dev get to make a video game in less than 50 years using the strategy of simplifying everything, but it also inadvertently creates the commitment to its core concept. This is what it's like to be in rural Finnish countryside while building a car from scratch. It's a very niche concept and also doesn't really sound all that interesting, I'll be the first to admit. Someone from the outside would take one look at this and say, no, this arguably looks worse than Shrek Extra Large on the GameCube, and building a car from scratch in the middle of nowhere would be a pain in the ass. Yes, that's the point. Oh, I did it! This game was intentionally made for a different type of fun. Normally, trying to build an engine and inevitably failing is nothing but frustrating, but here, it's more like the primer for the stupid decisions you end up making afterwards. And those decisions usually end up being very funny in retrospect. This is new. Fleetari is a repair shop owner you'll stumble upon, and a very crucial component to the game if you can actually build your car and bring it in for inspections and upgrades. Unfortunately for me, that's not happening. Hey, but his car is right outside. This guy's a nice car. Weirdly enticing and enterable, with no sign of a key. Maybe the key's in his office? No! Why are you driving back? What are you doing? It took me around 30 minutes to drag this car back to my garage because I thought I could either hotwire the car and use it, or pop the hood open, take the engine out, and somehow reverse engineer it, which by the way isn't even the same model as the one I have to build. I'm sorry, I thought something like this would be possible given how complicated they made making this car. But now Fleetari can't get home. And his car is just, I'm too lazy to bring that back, I guess. It's just gonna stay here now. The game never really tells you that dragging Fleetari's car is a bad idea, and that you're about to waste 30 minutes of your time. Oh my god. But it lets you do it. Oh, please. You're more exploring this game's systems and logic before making any tangible progress. Because telling you anything about anything is against the rules. Nobody's gonna tell you that the wheels you've been looking for are hidden in a random building held hostage by wasps. Oh my god, what? And nobody's gonna tell you that your uncle is right next door, and his blue van only periodically appears when you attach certain parts to the car. But hear me out. Once you get a job, ooh, it becomes less painful and leans more, meditative? I think. The jobs are about as good as someone would expect if they were out in rural areas, and there's something to be said about why delivering ads all over the town and bringing groceries to your grandma only to have to sit there while she rambles for 10 minutes before she finally gives you money is somewhat enjoyable. It feels good to chop wood and collect car scrap because surviving is a genuine challenge here, and doing these jobs aren't really as easy as you might think. There's actual effort that needs to go into them, and in some cases the effort is avoiding dying. Oh, this is the poop hole. Go in the poop hole. Ah! There are some relaxing aspects to it, and it's surprisingly immersive to the game's setting. It's almost always very lonely and mundane, picking strawberries. But it is a routine that you can follow, and one that often leads to making money, even if it's only 25 MK. I don't know what MK is. I think that's like the Finnish currency. It's a genuinely good feeling to buy parts and food so you don't die, and work towards building the car that you've wanted to finally build. Which kind of sparked a revolving question for me this entire playthrough. Why? I don't actually need to build this car. I don't even know if I actually want to build it. Do I even want to make this video anymore? You don't have to build Satsuma. You can get around and do what you need to do with the vehicles provided for you already. But it doesn't take long before you realize and then immediately resent how annoying it is having to drive 15 minutes to and back to get supplies. Because this tractor is the only one that has space for stuff, and is also reliable. Did this just break? The moped can take you where you need to be much faster, but it can only hold one item, and the opportunity to go fast is too much to bear. The chances of you flying off the dirt road and losing everything is almost a guarantee. And your uncle sometimes allows you to lend the van, but you can be very unlucky and never manage to see it when it rotationally appears. And even if you do, it vanishes the next day when you go to sleep. Yeah, your uncle doesn't really seem to like you that much, considering he's the one that presumably drives it to a very inconspicuous location so you don't take it again. Thank you, uncle. I hate you. Building Satsuma gives you the middle ground for everything. It's not the biggest or the fastest. Yet. But it provides essentially every answer to all of the other vehicle's problems. It's yours to keep and improve, and a real form of progression that ties everything together. Which balances the car and survival simulation very well. I'm not sure if this is gonna kill me or... For a game that looks like there wasn't any, real care put into it, I think it's all pretty intentional. It's one thing to advertise your game as unfun and just hold true to that statement. I think anyone can accidentally make something that lacks any substance. It's another to mask something good behind design choices that are conventionally bad. This game doesn't respect your time. It's almost always never clear. The Shrek game looks better. And by the time the sun goes down and someone looks back at the garage only to see nothing has happened, there's a chance that's the last time my summer car will be opened again. If you're making a game like this, you have to be okay with people not understanding at first, which is why most developers avoid it, because if players don't get it, it just kind of reads as a bad game.
Getting this game for Christmas would be worse than getting coal.
But you're given just enough reward to continue to trudge onwards. It's just complicated and realistic enough to keep you engaged, but not hopeless. Sometimes. That one's kind of a stretch, actually. Listen, it's okay if you look up how to make the car, it's fine. And it's just jank enough to keep expectations low. You don't expect Penna, the guy who keeps ramming into my stuff, but also your cousin, someone you're supposed to trust, suddenly get very angry, proceeds to drive recklessly, and kills both of you because you flipped him off. That's not only hilarious, but that sort of reaction fits very well with the rural culture you're in, where risk, boredom, and an extraordinary amount of alcohol all come together, leading to unpredictable circumstances, and in a lot of cases, reckless behavior. It's a really small detail, but it's a very important one because that's what separates this game from actually being bad. It's very well designed underneath what a game you'd assume kind of sucks. But it's funny because that's what accentuates what living in this world actually feels like. And that's why a lot of people, including me, see that as a labor of love, as opposed to something that might otherwise visually look better. You can feel the developer's hands all over this game. He forces you to watch him sing and prance around bushes while you're in jail. What? Yeah, you can go to jail. Apparently killing someone has actual consequences, and I'm in here for 12 in-game days, which translates to a full day in real life. And no, you can't escape. You have to sit here. There's more stuff that I never mentioned in this video that I couldn't get to, but it's enough to hopefully get you to play because it's really good. Thumbs up from me, even if it is the most I've ever cried. What the f- Oh my god, are you kidding?